and welcome to Get the Table, another wrestling roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Adam Wilborn, Andy Murray, and Adam Clery from WhatCulture, here to discuss another burning wrestling issue. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, where we review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday night war between AEW and NXT pay-per-views. We have interviews, more roundtable discussions like this one, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But gents, we are gathered...
Before you start, are you ever tempted? Because that's such a done introduction and so well rehearsed, and you do it the same for all of them. Are you not tempted just to have a little thing at the start you just play?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking before, because we've had to autograph 400 magazines the last couple of days, and someone went, "Why don't we just get a stamp?" And I was like, "It's inauthentic, but probably still quite efficient." You never tempted just to get an audio stamp and be like, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah.
You think about it, you must spend, 30 seconds?
Yeah.
You do, 2-3 podcasts a day? That's a minute and a half. Yeah. Let's say round up, 2 minutes a day you spend doing that. It's
wasting
10 minutes.
my life.
10 minutes over the course of the week. That's over an hour. No, it's 40 minutes over a month. It's over, it's a couple of hours over the air. Think of the naps you could have. Anyway, other question. Whenever you say, welcome to Get the Table, you ever also tempted to be like, well, got it, see you later, and that's the end of it? Is this why you don't have me on?
Yeah. Right, let's move on and ask the central question of today's Get the Table. Which celebrities do WWE need to sign next? This is obviously coming off the back of Cain Velasquez and Tyson Fury being announced for the Crown Jewel pay-per-view at the end of October. So it's very en vogue for WWE yet again to bring in celebrities who have zero wrestling experience, Cain Velasquez aside, when it comes to the squared circle. So... who are some people you would love to see wrestling in WWE or just involved in WWE?
LeBron.
I
want LeBron James in WWE.
I like that because obviously Shaq was booked.
Shaq was dreadful. Shaq had no idea what he was doing. Shaq cannot act.
He's fun though.
Shaq is look, don't get me wrong. Shaq is fun, but I wasn't I did not need to see that Big Show Shaq match. I didn't need to see it at all. However, LeBron, as discussed, has been sort of outed a bit. In Hollywood as being a really quite good actor. His comic timing in Trainwreck especially was impeccable. He's probably a more charismatic performer and more athletic than I'd say 80% of that roster.
Oh, he's more athletic than 100% of that roster.
Oh, not Seth Rollins.
Oh, sorry.
I honestly think you could put him in a program there. He'd be the best thing in the program by an absolute mile.
It wouldn't take a lot to convince Vince either.
No.
Here's his height.
Here's the greatest basketball player of all time who is 6'9" or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy sell.
There's similarities as well because a lot of people seem to think that LeBron gets a lot of hate from NBA fans despite being really good.
The king.
Yeah, never really doing anything wrong. And the similarities between sort of Cena in that regard, even Reigns to an extent, are quite obvious. I think there's a story to be told there with LeBron.
I really like that. Andy Murray, who's the name that first springs into your head?
Well, I really struggled with this question because I was sitting there thinking at my desk, right, who are my favourite celebrities? Can't use John Cena. Can't use Dwayne Johnson. Can't use Dave Bautista. Yeah. Really tough one. Then immediately two really boring and kind of unfun names came to mind, so I'm just going to spit them out now. Daniel Cormier and John Jones.
Yes.
Daniel Cormier is a massive pro wrestling fan. He was linked with a spot in the SmackDown announce booth previously. He's done some announcing work for the UFC, so forth, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, great pedigree, former UFC heavyweight champion. He was in Strikeforce. Was he an Olympian? I think he was an Olympian. Either way, he's a very good wrestler. He'd be a great addition, although Kane obviously has given me a bit of pause. That hasn't gone over particularly well so far. But, Cormier is quite a charismatic, emotional guy.
Could be better on the mic, wouldn't he?
Oh, absolutely. You'd think so. John Jones, however, is an absolute piece of trash and would fit in as a heel perfectly. Complete scumbag, the kind of guy who drives away from crime scenes and, fails drug tests and shows no apologetic side to him whatsoever. I think he'd be a great heel. He's also, he's got them chicken legs, but, he's a tall guy, good build. I think Vince would be like, oh.
Despite all that controversy, arguably one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever.
Of all time, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great bit of notoriety he could really cash in on. I think he'd be a lot more fun than the little Irish guy that a lot of people mention in these conversations.
John Jones as well is also, whenever you go to like those knockoff clothing markets where you get like Giorgio Pavani leather jackets, John Jones is always the name of the jeans manufacturers. So you could do something with that.
There you go.
Now, I'm grateful for you to coming on here.
Because we're celebrities as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But we actually can finish after I give my first name because I've won.
Okay.
The one person we need to see in WWE right now is not an athlete. It is, in fact, Gordon Ramsay. And what show would he be on? He'd be on Raw!
We say Gordon Ramsay isn't an athlete. The man was a professional footballer at one stage of his career.
Well, yes.
I was 100%.
He is known more as a chef, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. Yeah, Gordon Ramsay. The thing is, there's a lot of celebrities in that sort of Gordon Ramsay vein whose entire thing is very similar to pro wrestling, putting on a character and acting in a way which is just like completely over the top and ridiculous. And idiots at home go, well, he tells it like it is, doesn't he? When in fact it is just character work. So Gordon Ramsay's effectively made marks out of normal people. So in that regard, he should clean up in wrestling, really, shouldn't he?
I think so. I think he'd be a fascinating addition to the roster.
But the thing is, though, I watched him do all the celebrity football matches where he'd be in all the build-up stuff, and he'd do the 3 weeks of television where they're talking about the training, and he'd get given the armband because Gordon Ramsay just wanted so much, and then he'd break down after 15 minutes playing at left back and go off crying. So I don't really know if wrestling's for him.
It'd be fun though. Like on a similar note, you could get Alan Sugar on, but my tolerance for that guy is very low with each passing season of The Apprentice. But you could get Claude on.
Claude would be good.
Imagine him as GM. You wouldn't mess with Claude, like Jesus.
Claude would be good.
What about the guy from The American Apprentice? I don't know what he's.
Who's that?
No. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no idea.
I want to give you a name, Adam Clery, because you saw this when
I've
I was
got
making
a
my notes. Well, yes, but I feel like you're better place to handle this, and that name is Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, yeah. She's probably the most naturally over heel. Because we got to think like 90% of wrestling fans, like, they skew a certain way politically. Don't like them talking out of turn, do they? They're like Lacey Evans and they're like Trish Stratus and all that. Don't let them getting ideas above their station. And whereas Megan Rapinoe is a living idea above her station. And I think you
what
imagine
about
the
that
heat.
7-second clip where she doesn't sign a football?
Oh, that's absolutely scandalous. Or the fire alarm or something goes off in the background and she looks at that instead of the pube child in front of her. Yeah, it's. I think she'd be the booze, the hurricane of booze she would get would be worth doing. I just like this idea of her just doing that at like all these crowds full of like really angry men.
Did she do an Orton celebration at the World Cup?
She did
an Orton-esque.
Yeah, that was pretty much a whole
Piers
gimmick.
Morgan got really upset, which is even more reason to get her on wrestling.
Why did he get upset?
Because he's Piers Morgan, he's a moron.
Well, this is the thing. Piers Morgan, there was a lot of very, very insecure men who really hated Megan Rapinoe. Piers Morgan was probably the most vocal of all of them, but you got to remember all of Piers Morgan's opinions are just lies he says for money to try and get that kind of audience support. So
he'd probably be quite good at wrestling then.
Yeah, to be fair, Morgan probably looked at Rapinoe and thought, there's another genuine worker like myself. Like Rapinoe loves winding people up, and if you can wind people up effectively, you're a great heel in wrestling. She'd be brilliant. Plus, you got to remember she's incredibly athletic as well. She could. Why isn't this talked about more? Rapinoe should be in WWE tomorrow.
No, I think she'd be a stellar fit for something like that.
Speaking of the great sport of soccer, after the narrative, after the drama that they spun across social media the other week, this won't mean a whole lot to our American wrestlers, but Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney.
Oh, what a feud.
Master storytellers. They have got the craft down to a T, more than most professional wrestlers, but I think I might have a candidate for the winner here. Cardi B.
Cardi B, what a show.
2019's best supporting actress, as we found out in the wonderful movie Hustlers. She's a ridiculous human being that shouldn't really exist. You might look at her and think she's playing some kind of character, but I fully believe that all her outlandish personality and everything that's loud about it is entirely her. It reflects in her music. It reflected in her performance in that film. She is ridiculous. She's over the top. She's pantomime. She's big box office. So is professional wrestling. And it was one of the great shames of 2019 when that rumored appearance at SummerSlam didn't materialize, come to pass.
I really like Cardi. That's a great shout. Speaking of female superstars we could bring in, Andy Murray, what is it you and I often say when it comes to athletic high flyers in WWE?
Flippity-doo-dah.
Flippy-dippy-doo-dah. And who is more flippy-dippy-doo-dah than Simone Biles, Olympian gold medal holder? Get her on the top rope and see what happens.
I don't know who that is.
You'll have seen it the other week. There was that clip doing the rounds. She's the first person to ever do a particular aerial maneuver on the floor, and they had a slow motion clip of it, and like the way her body moves in midair, she must get about 10, 15 foot in the air.
Show me this
off
after.
the ground. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you think that Neville or Ricochet can defy gravity? Wait till you see Simone Biles. I think it should be a.
To be fair,
They'd probably ground her though immediately. They'd be like, you
work a hold.
Chin lock.
There's loads and loads and loads and loads. From a personal perspective, do you reckon you'd be better off getting into wrestling if your natural personality was over the top and a lot like wrestling, or if you were able to create characters as well as you do in wrestling? Because that's a question, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Because it's meant to be you turned up to 11, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Depends on the platform. WWE is probably your ability to create characters and be what some nerd in a writing room wants you to be.
Yeah, because if you did yourself turned up to 11 in WWE, they'd go, we don't like you as that.
Yeah.
We're going to have you as this completely other
What about in non-wrestling capacities? Anybody you'd like to see just get that comeuppance? Like whenever WWE would come over to the UK, like, here's Vinnie Jones.
Yes.
He is.
Yeah.
We went to one of the house shows in Newcastle, and they got a cricketer in, like some cricketer who's from Newcastle. Like, special guest timekeeper. It's
Gary
some Johnny
Bob.
bloody
James Anderson, maybe?
I don't know. Nobody watches cricket.
Steve Bum.
Something like that. And he came out, ironically, to cricket. And people were like, this celebrity guest appearance hasn't gone down well. And yet, when they got Jermaine Defoe, Sunderland centre forward in Newcastle, the pop that got, boo, hiss. He loved it.
Well, wasn't there a story ages ago? I think we're talking about SummerSlam again. Wasn't there a story that Bieber was going to be involved in it in some way?
Big money Biebs. Who's he trying to fight these days for? We could get that done in WWE. Was it Wahlberg? No. Who was he? Tom Cruise.
Is that? Oh, yes.
Yeah, Bieber and Tom Cruise.
Book that at WrestleMania. Why not? Saudi Arabia. Imagine the money. Oh, my God.
It's not. There's no point. Justin Bieber going to SummerSlam would be absolutely brilliant, but as I'm not going to be doing last minute rumours on it, I can care less now. If my only interaction with that is having to sit through the actual match itself rather than being able to get the hype machine going on a Thursday, then
one of the names I thought of to bring into WWE is kind of a sort of an indictment of WWE. Obviously, you can't really be a true heel anymore. When we suggest people like the Fiend who sneak attack people and what have you, you don't really get booed for doing that. It's an exciting alternative, basically. So what I thought is I would bring someone into WWE who, if you attacked, there is no way, shape or form you are not a heel if you attack them because they are beloved. So Tom Hanks is going to be booked for WWE, sneak attacked by anyone, and they are instantly the biggest heel in the company.
I thought you were going to say David Attenborough when you threw that pitch. Oh, God. You've hit the home run. You've hit the home run with Tom Hanks. I've got another suggestion from the movie industry.
Go on.
I want this guy on camera. I want him behind the scenes because I feel like his direction would be absolutely hilarious if you brought it to Raw or SmackDown.
Roman Polanski?
Michael Bay. The sign said left, but I went all the way right.
Michael Bay, yes.
More explosions, more stupid bollocks.
I'm up for that.
That's what wrestling is anyway, right? Get Michael Bay on. Fire Paul Heyman. We need the big man.
The entire 3-hour episode of Raw were just like the original opening credits from like '99, just like all in a big wasteland with fuel barrels going all over the place, people walking away from explosions, Megan Fox bending over the ring apron.
Yeah,
it'd be great that.
I think he was in WWE, yes, in the mid '90s, basically. Yeah, that's all it was, wasn't it? Whore, skank, explosions.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people in the comment section want that era back anyway, so I'll bring back Michael Bay.
Yeah. Any other names, Adam Clery, that pops into your head?
Simon Miller.
Miller.
Why don't they just get it over with?
I mean,
it's where this is all leading. So, Simon Miller's getting good at wrestling, and he's very good at wrestling presenting, and they hate us. So why don't they just offer him the $5 million they're going to inevitably offer him and put all of us out of our misery?
Do you think Simon Miller could eventually become one of those things like the AEW and the CM Punk chant that we get when people are bored of whatever's going on in the ring?
Yeah, but that would effectively mean...
Because he's got signs there already, hasn't he?
That if WWE shows started getting hijacked by Simon Miller chants, that would effectively mean that SmackDown would turn into our comment section. And it's just a matter of time, so do it now.
Yeah. I'm down for something like that.
Book it up.
A couple of other names I wanted to put forward to you. I mean, one name that has sort of been involved in WWE, but I'd be intrigued to see where you go from here is Rob Gronkowski. Because obviously he had the spot with... what's his name?
Mojo
Rawley. Well, technically, he had the spot with Jinder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give Jinder his due.
But Could you see it, more sort of American football players would make sense in WWE?
Yeah, I mean, Gronkowski spoke about this like a month or so ago, didn't he? He said, "I'd like to do one big crazy match, brother." And he's good mates with esteemed WWE wrestler Mojo Rawley, which is one hell of a foot in the door. No, I could absolutely see it. I can't profess to know more than you could write on the back of a postage stamp about American football, but I understand he's a big personality. He's a big, lovable dope kind of character, big jock.
His shoulder charge was, in fairness, absolutely excellent. And given that Jinder is not a small man.
You were there for it?
Yeah, we were at that one. Because, there's a long story about Rob Gronkowski interfering in the Battle Royal, which threw certain problems our way while we were sat in the crowd. That's a story for another time, though. Thing is, the problem we're going to get is with all this Saudi oil money floating around, you're going to find there's a lot of celebrities who are up for doing just one big crazy match, brother, because that's probably the biggest payday. If they're gone past the peak of their powers in their own sport, as it's probably fair to say Cain Velasquez has, probably fair to say Tyson Fury has, probably fair to say Rob Gronkowski has, then the idea of doing one big crazy match for WWE is all of a sudden that's your nest egg. Yeah. If you can if your personality is good enough and you find your sense your career's sort of dwindling down in your professional sport, but obviously you're not past it sufficiently that you're not interesting anymore. If you can get yourself on a Crown Jewel or a Greatest Royal Rumble or a whatever horrible names they're giving them, then that's you. That's you set for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's intriguing to see the sort of cherry picking of stars. Cain Velasquez.
Who were those two nerds out at WrestleMania this year?
They're back on Monday Night Raw.
Michael Che and
Michael Che.
Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was rubbish.
Yeah.
That was rubbish.
They're on Raw tonight, mate. Get ready.
No.
There's a name I have to bring up, and I don't want to, but I'm going to have to mention her name. Chris Cyborg.
Oh.
Why don't you want to?
Well, we've got
that's your meal ticket. That.
Yeah. I need to. She needs to wait for me to get fully trained up at wrestling or MMA or anything really.
Yeah.
For us to have
or
a
not.
proper or not.
Or not.
But I mean, she is someone that we've referenced when Ronda Rousey was obviously having that incredible rookie year as someone akin to Cain Velasquez that could come in. And I mean, arguably could easily still happen. That as there's someone, this is the person that derailed this person's hype train.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great shout because she's terrifying. She also she's got one of the most fearsome records in women's MMA history or general MMA history, really. She has probably been held up by contract problems in the UFC. She's out of there now. Is she in Bellator now?
Yep.
I'm not sure. She's talked about it a lot. Her and Becky Lynch had a Twitter feud 2 or 3 years ago. It was really weird, but you could capitalize on that. She has history with Ronda Rousey. They've sniped at each other for years. They never got to fight in a real fight. Maybe they can make that happen in a fake fantasy world. I think it'd be great. And she actually projects menace, which is something that Cain Velasquez, as good as he was in the UFC and as skilled a mixed martial artist as he was, does not.
The problem with all this is we take these people from other sports, real life, television, fiction, whatever it is, and we go, right, this is an awesome character, or this is an awesome person, they'd be great, they would fit wrestling so well. But then you think, once you start giving them 5 minutes with WWE scriptwriters, they're just another nerd. You know what I mean? They're just going to imagine Chris Cyborg having to read off a pre-prepared thing of I'm really dangerous.
Championship opportunity.
You want to be careful because you've never faced anybody like me. I don't care if that's what Nia Jax said or what Ronda Rousey said or what every other woman who isn't Lacey Evans has ever said. I mean it.
You may have fought a man, you may have fought a woman, you've never fought
a cyborg.
Chael Sonnen that for me, boys.
and Conor McGregor are two names obviously that need to be mentioned. Conor McGregor is the biggest star, unquestionably, but also carries a lot of baggage at the moment. Chael Sonnen, arguably the original Conor McGregor, the man who invented, to some extent, trash talking in MMA.
The gangster from West Lynn, Oregon. I don't want Conor McGregor, given the recent year or so of his personal life, anywhere near professional wrestling. He's scummy enough to fit into this scummy little business, but the guy is not only a danger to himself these days, I believe he's a danger to anyone who comes in contact with him in public. I mean, you can't go a month without this guy making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Get him to hell. He's also a midget, so
The McGregor thing's interesting because when Rousey came in, there was obviously a lot of talk about the training's going to be very difficult for her because obviously the way she was in MMA, if she wants to come in as an actual, not just a celebrity guest, she's coming in to be part of the roster to do a series of matches, to do main events here and there, to genuinely elevate the entire women's division as a whole. There's a lot of talk about the training and how she would adapt and how it's going to be difficult for her trying to sell. And genuinely, there was a lot of problems with some of her matches. Like her selling for Alexa Bliss for 10, 50 minutes was odd. But every single match she had, one way or another, she put everybody else over big time. Like probably the best women's match this year so far has been Sasha and Ronda.
I'd put Sasha
at the
up there.
Rumble.
Yeah,
Sasha came out, and she'd had a fairly dreadful sort of couple of pay-per-views before that. Really awful 6 months. She came out looking like a star again against Ronda. Everybody she was in the ring with came out genuinely looking $1 million, even in defeat. And for the life of me, I cannot envisage any kind of reality where Conor McGregor puts another human being over.
Yeah.
Even in defeat. I can't see him doing it.
Yeah, it's a really difficult sell on every front for me. Chael Sonnen, on the other hand, I think is the most natural fit in the world.
He knows exactly what he's doing with his YouTube videos, let alone...
Exactly. And like 90% of his shtick comes from wrestlers. He's quoting superstar Billy Graham and Jesse Ventura and all these other people. He loves this stuff from back in the day. I mean, he's been very critical of the modern product, but I think he'd be a great manager at the very least.
I think if you want to, just getting away from the whole what celebrity would you have in, like what should the next crop of wrestling talent be? People who are critical of the current product are probably really important to get in.
They are.
People who've been...
The
problem we've got now, which is a completely different podcast I'm going to get into altogether, is sports entertainment has been around and dominant for so long that a lot of like young people coming into WWE have known nothing but it. You know what I mean? It's different now because obviously on-demand stuff makes everything accessible. But if you think if you grew up from about 2002 to say 2014, 15, you didn't have that on-demand stuff. You literally had to go to alternate shows.
Buy a tape.
You know what I mean? So a lot of people are probably getting in now. Probably why people like Seth Rollins are so defensive of the product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what they were raised on. That's a whole other different kind of kettle of fish, but there you go.
Any other final names you want to mention here?
James Corden, because I'd like to see him get battered.
Oh, yes.
Want Braun Strowman throwing him off the stage into a pile of sharks.
I don't even know if I could ironically enjoy James Corden. I wouldn't mind seeing him go into UFC, because obviously then I just wouldn't watch it.
Any other names?
You?
Me?
Yeah, you'd be good.
As what?
I don't know. They got rid of Todd Phillips in the end, didn't they?
You're a lot better than the Jorts guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyone is, to be perfect.
Call him a nerd. I get like 7 people at me on Twitter.
One name I haven't mentioned that I feel like I should. Serena Williams. I feel like she just dominate.
Yeah.
Greatest female athlete of all time.
Yeah.
The greatest female athlete of all time.
There we go. Right. Well, let us know your suggestions for celebrities you'd like to see in WWE in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Whilst you're there, follow all three of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Harold Bishop, which is my real answer.
Oh, he'd have been good.
You can follow Adam Clery at
Adam Clery, Clery.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all, as I said, at WhatCultureWWE. Bishop.
Rest in peace.
Right, this has been Get the Table. My thanks to Andy and to Adam. Here's now. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Killed Harold Bishop.
Congratulations, by the way, on being the first person to ever mention an Australian around Adam Wilborn and not trigger an Australian impression. Does know Harold Bishop is, does he?
I do. Biscuits, innit, and all that.